texture of hair in their beard, which some ethnicities have. From their countries, you'll find that they have real straight hair or whatever, or thick, straight hair. So in order to have that look of it looking kind of, if you want to say, kind of from the people of opulence or what they used to do, they would tie their beard in a knot in order to attain the type of crinkles in the beard. So it could have a certain type of appearance that could be appealing. So the Prophet saw Ahl Ilm came and said, this is also from the meaning of the hadith. This is also from the meanings of the hadith. That one, that he ties his beard in order to attain that type of look. But, like we mentioned from last class, if one just combs or brushes his beard and then it so happens that certain waves or whatever appears in the beard, there's no problem with that. The problem, like we said, is what? Tying it in a knot. That's where the prohibition is applied. Is it clear, everyone? So the prohibition is applied when one ties a beard in order to attain that type of, you want to say, smooth, standout type of, so-called what people would consider a smooth type of gentleman look or what have you. Then like we said, the hadith applies to that. The third one, lastly, like we said last class, is considered what? La'ib or abath during the salah. One, playing during his prayer. Playing around. During this prayer, you'll find that certain priests, when praying, they will what? Tie their beard in a knot or play around with their beard. This is also likewise, one should abstain from this during the salah. So all of this is prohibited in regards to tying the knot in the beard, whether it be for these reasons, all of it is what? Permissible. Whether impermissible. Whether one ties it without some type of decoration, because like I said, I've heard, and I've seen myself, certain people tie a beard or tie a knot in their beard and they'll put a bead around it or they put some type of string around it or something else. All this is prohibited. For one to practice these type of practices, which are what? Which are highly prohibited, and they're considered from the affairs of Jahiliyyah. They're considered from the affairs of pre-Islamic ignorance in which we've been prohibited to practice. So you notice in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned and said, maybe perhaps life will what? You will receive longevity through wayfare. And we talked about, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, the Prophet ﷺ used to talk about affairs that will occur in the future, which is from the signs of the different signs of prophethood, which the Prophet ﷺ was given, in which Allah Ta'ala informed him that certain affairs were going to occur and certain things were going to take place. And as we know, they did what? Occur. And they did happen. So many different affairs and so many different narrations, which shows the Prophet ﷺ was truly the Prophet of Allah Ta'ala. From the signs of, for example, like we talked about before, of huge buildings being raised and huge structures in the future, as he talked about during his time, he says that there will be huge structures and buildings. That will be what? They will be very high and tall. And the people will be competing in them as far as in their what? In their stature, of how high they are. We know that the Prophet ﷺ informed about, for example, about there will be women that will be clothed, but at the same time they're still naked, in which we see during these times, likewise. And we know during the time of the Prophet ﷺ also informed, also there's a narration about the car. Likewise, there's a narration of Imam Ahmed where the Prophet ﷺ talked about the car. Yes, in which we'll talk about that later, likewise. There is a narration in which the Prophet ﷺ talked about a car, in which the great Imam al-Albani had commented on this particular hadith. He says, until the point, when I've seen the narration, it blew me away. To show that the Prophet ﷺ was given this type of insight, showing that these affairs were going to take place in the future, in which Allah Ta'ala had gave him revelation, informing us about these affairs that would take place. And like we said, they were actualized. We see them taking place, which shows that these are the signs from the signs of prophethood, which the Prophet ﷺ was given. From those signs of what they call A'lam al-Nubuwa. A'lam al-Nubuwa. From the signs of prophethood is in this narration here in your book. If you look in your book, it says that the Prophet ﷺ said to the Wed.Fri.Sun, Ibn Thabit. What's your book, Musa? They said to the Wed.Fri.Sun, Ibn Thabit, He says, maybe perhaps you will receive longevity. And you know that Wed.Fri did live very long. Wed.Fri ibn Thabit, and I have to check the Sirah A'lam al-Nubala, which the Imam al-Dhahabi, I mentioned the date of how long he lived. But Wed.Fri ibn Thabit lived very long. So you notice which the Prophet ﷺ had said here in this hadith, it actually occurred. He lived and he received longevity in his life. So the Prophet ﷺ said this, he said, maybe perhaps you receive longevity. And it happened exactly how the Prophet ﷺ described it. So all these affairs are from the affairs of prophethood, to show that the Prophet ﷺ truly was a prophet and a messenger that was sent by the Lord of all of creation. So the next part, if you notice that the Prophet ﷺ said in this hadith, he says, "Man taqallada watara." Whoever ties that bow around the riding beast. So tying the bow around the riding beast here, is also likewise from the affairs of Jahiliyyah. We already explained of why the bow is tied around the riding beast. What is it used for? What was it utilized for? Why was it used? Why, everyone? Why, Dawood? Why did they used to tie a bow around the animal? Tafadal. So you can skip what again? Why did they used to tie the bow around the animal? Protect it from the evil eye. Sent. Or what was you going to say, Abdurrahim? Just the evil eye only? Any type of evil happening to it. Generalize it. Any type of evil happening to it. No matter if it's a car accident, no matter if it's a what? Any type of evil. So the Prophet ﷺ, even though they used to take this as a way or method to protect themselves, the Prophet ﷺ prohibited it. Highly prohibited this matter. In which, like we said, number one, it was from the affairs of Jahiliyyah. It was from the affairs of pre-Islamic ignorance. In which people who used to associate partners with Allah in His worship used to utilize these type of affairs and practices in order to what? In order to ward themselves against certain type of trivial matters that would take place in one's life. They would what? Take these practices and put them or tie them or what have you from the different types of what? Riding beasts or anything they value. They used to also tie certain things around their children or tie certain things around themselves. To the point where some of them used to go to the extreme that they would even wear worn out, dirty clothes. Or you'll find in certain narrations, they used to even take food. And from the superstitious beliefs, they would take something of food and throw it on the ground. Or act as if something fell on the ground. In order to think that so a person who might be envious will not envy them. Or they used to wear worn out clothes. Or dress in a very, not say humiliating, but a very, if you want to say from the, people who are from the indigent. Or people that don't have a lot of money, people who are, if you want to say for lack of better words, are doing bad. They will wear patches in their clothes or dirty, raggedy clothes. All this to protect them from the ayn. So they even go to those extremes. To protect themselves from someone that cannot be jealous of them. Is this affair permissible? Or is it not permissible? We said, Ya ma'ashal ikhwa, Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, as we know, loves to see the ni'mah or the blessings that He's bestowed upon His slave upon him. So one, if he wants, he can take this affair and be moderate, which we'll talk about inshallah, but not be extreme to the point, like we said, he has to now lead himself into roads of polytheism, or he will do certain practices such as someone would take some food and throw it on the ground. In which you'll find that was from their practices. This is even what Ibn Uthaymeen, he mentioned, and said. Now listen to what he said. He said, وَبَعْتُ الْعَامَ إِذَا جَاءَهُمْ طَعَامًا مِنَ السُّوقِ أَخَذُوا شَيْئًا مِنْ يَرْمُونَهُ فِي الْأَرْضِ دَفَعَ لِلْعَيْنِ. He says, you'll find that some of the common folk, even today, they take some food from the market, take a little bit of it and throw it on the ground. It's a superstitious belief. He says, in order to repel the evil eye. He said that this is a corrupt ideology and belief. And it also contradicts the statement of the Prophet ﷺ that if one or morsel of food was to fall on the ground, he says, then remove from it of that dirt or that harm, and if he wants and he likes, then let him eat it. So at the end of the day, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, all these different types of practices are what? Prohibited. So the Prophet ﷺ did not legislate that one takes these type of methods in order to protect yourself whatsoever. Then the last part of the hadith, it says, whoever istanja bi raji'i dabba wa 'azm. Whoever now, as it says in your book, if you look in your books, brothers, next time bring your books. Bring your book. Musa, you know better. Dawood, where are we reading from? Which hadith we reading from? I can't see from there. Read it. Go ahead and read it. Don't get nervous. You good? Don't get nervous. Don't get frustrated. His mind is somewhere else. Where's the brothers? Somebody had their book. Brothers, please make sure that when you come to class, inshallah, bring the book. I prefer that book right there. You see this one that Amir has? That one specifically. The reason why that book is some things out of there is dropped. That's very important. And when you speak about, no, this is the one that, astaghfirullah. I forgot your name. AbdurRazzaaq. When he has that particular copy, has some stuff that is dropped that's not in that copy. I prefer the copy that the one the brothers are using. The one that's a purple copy, is a purple type of color to it. That preferably is better. But if you don't have it right now, then you can use any one that you have in your house until you get it. But other than that, inshallah, brothers, please be diligent trying to bring your books to class. Bring your books to class. It's not a lecture. This is a class. The difference between a lecture is the difference between a class. This is a class. Class, you follow along the book. Don't stop thinking about things that not pertain to the message right now. Just focus. Focus. طيب. So he said in the last part of the hadith, whoever uses or makes an istinja, meaning that he purifies himself in the bathroom by raji'i dabba, by the dung of a riding beast, or by its bones. All these are affairs likewise from previous Islamic practices that one would do before Islam in order to so-called purify himself from feces or purifying himself from urine after he used the bathroom. So when he used the bathroom, they would utilize or they would use these different types of things in order to purify themselves, in which likewise the Prophet ﷺ prohibited. Due to the fact that we talked about that we said raji'i dabba, or the dung of the riding beast, that is considered what, everyone? That's considered food for the riding beast of the jinn. Dawab bil jinn. So the jinn, they would eat what? They would eat the dung. They would eat the dung of the animals, which was considered what? Food for them. And as far as the bones, then what? That was food for the actual jinn themselves. Who are the jinn? Dawood. Who are the jinn? The Muslim? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Jayyid. The jinn, in which, like we said, from their food was bones. And when he utilizes it, like we said, for the bathroom, then basically you're corrupting their food. So that is one of the reasons why, which we'll talk about inshallah, why it's prohibited that one does not use bones or dung in order to purify himself or clean himself from the bathroom. As you'll find the majority of Ahl-Ilm, which is the correct opinion, that these matters do not purify the person or the places in which these matters emanated. From the private parts, from whether it be urine or feces or what have you, it does not purify it. And that's another reason why it's prohibited. How are you purifying yourself with something that is not pure either? So it's adding more impurities on top of more impurities. So for that reason, one abstains from it. For number one, it does not purify. That's number one. And number two, like we said, it's from the ta'am or the food of the jinn. As far as the bones, that's for the jinn. And as far as the dung of the riding beast, then that is the alaf. That is the food for their riding beast. So one, like we said, does not corrupt their food. These are affairs of the unseen in which, like we said, that we believe in and we submit to what Allah and His Messenger have informed us, that this is the food of the riding beast from the jinn, and it's also food for the who? For the jinn. As far as this narration, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, this narration was related by Wed.Fri.Sun. Wed.Fri.Sun was a Sahabi, like we said, right everyone? Wed.Fri.Sun, his name was Wed.Fri.Sun ibn Thabit. Wed.Fri.Sun ibn Thabit, this particular narration that we just read, there's a story to it. There's a story to it. You'll find that the story that's connected with what we're talking about now, in regards to what happened with Wed.Fri.Sun, that it says in the beginning of the hadith, this is not in your books, but there's another part to this narration here. In addition to what is in everyone's book. But this one I'm about to read is not in your book. But it's just to give a little bit more insight and a little bit more clarification and detail about the narration that is written in everyone's book. There's another part in which the mu'allif or the author did not mention, but just to get a little bit of extra clarification. So like we said, we can be enlightened more. There's no problem, inshallah. Wed.Fri.Sun ibn Thabit, Wed.Fri.Sun ibn Thabit, that he said, this is not in your book, so everyone listen. He says that one of us during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he said he would take the jamal akhihi ala yu'tiyahu nisf. Listen, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he says that one of us would take the riding beast or the camel of his brother on the condition that he give him half of what he attained as the war booty. What is he talking about? We're going to speak about that in a second. He says, and likewise, his partner will also likewise have half. What is he talking about here? Just listen. You'll find that the isnad of the hadith in one of the asanid, in one of the chains, in regards to this narration, has in it Maslama ibn Mukhallad or Makhlad. This narration particularly is authentic, due to the fact there's a lot of chains in order to support the authenticity of this narration here. Just to sum up everything, because I don't want to get inside the actual terminology hadith and get to the science of the isnad, but just to sum up everything, there's a story of what took place. That Maslama ibn Makhlad, that he was the emir, he was the ruler, or someone who was a delegate for Muawiyah. We know Muawiyah radiallahu anh was also what? The ruler in Kufa, or during the time, or after the time of the Prophet ﷺ, after his death, alayhi salatu wasalam, that we know Muawiyah became from the umara. He came from the rulers. But anyway, just to make a long story short, Muawiyah, I think this is Muawiyah ibn Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Anyway, Muawiyah had appointed a ruler. Excuse me, I'm sorry, Maslama ibn Mukhallad, or Maslama ibn Makhlad, he was the emir for Muawiyah. And Maslama ibn Makhlad was the leader over Egypt at the time. Maslama ibn Makhlad, and I think it's Maslama or Maslama ibn Mukhallad, but what comes to my mind is Makhlad. That he was the ruler over Egypt at the time, in which Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan had appointed him over Egypt. So who was in charge of Egypt? Maslama ibn Makhlad. He was appointed as the ruler over Egypt at the time. But at any rate, Maslama ibn Makhlad had appointed Ruwayfi' ibn Thabit. He appointed him over a portion of the land of Egypt. So he was another delegate. So just to put everything in order, first you have Muawiyah. Muawiyah was in charge of radiyallahu an. Then he put Maslama in charge over what? Over Egypt. Then Maslama appointed Ruwayfi' ibn Thabit over a certain land in Egypt. So that's how it's going down to what? The line. You had number one, which is what? Muawiyah radiyallahu an ibn Abi Sufyan. Then he appointed Maslama ibn Makhlad over what? Over Egypt, over Misr. Then he appointed the great Sahabi, likewise, Ruwayfi' over a certain land over in Egypt. But anyway, Ruwayfi' ibn Thabit, who was the narrator's hadith in your books. Right, everyone? Isn't he not the narrator? Him and another person, his name was Shuyaym ibn Baytan. He had a partner. His name was Shuyaym ibn Baytan. Shuyaym ibn Baytan. Him and Muawiyah were walking, him and Ruwayfi' were walking together. Not only were they walking together, but however they were also partners when they would travel. They would travel to the land in which they were appointed over, or in which Ruwayfi' was appointed as the ruler over, or the delegate, or that particular ruler of that area or that land. But we know that Ruwayfi' was appointed by who, everyone? By Maslama ibn Makhlad, who was the wali, or the ruler over Egypt at the time, right, everyone? طيب. So, Ruwayfi' ibn Thabit, and likewise, his partner Shuyaym ibn Baytan, they used to walk together in the road. When they would walk together in the road, which I don't get to the details to confuse anyone. Anyway, they used to go to a place that was called Al-Qam. They would come together and they would go from one area to another area, or from one city to another city. While they were in the city, or while they were in the road, everyone, when they were going back and forth to these particular areas or lands in which they were appointed as being in charge over, they used to go back and forth from one area to another area to another area to another area. Anyway, just to make long story short, while this distance that they used to travel, which they used to go from one area to another area, they started speaking in the road. They started having a conversation. So who started having a conversation? It was Ruwayfi' and his partner who? Shuyaym ibn Baytan. So during their walks back and forth from one area to another area, one city to another city, they indulged inside of a what? Conversation. So now this conversation in which they were discussing was this hadith here. It's this particular narration. You understand, everyone? So they started talking about this. So during the road, when they were speaking about this hadith, Ruwayfi' started saying, verily during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, verily one of us would take his nasl, or another narration, nadl. So he said that one of us would take what they call a nadl. Don't write this down. Verily, he basically was saying, just to sum up everything and make it concise, that they used to have a riding beast in which one would possess, and he would have, and he would utilize it. And it would belong to him, right, everyone? And they said it used to be very skinny due to the fact that it used to be used a lot. So it says that one of us used to take, his partner or his friend would take his riding beast, and whatever they would utilize it for, and whatever they would benefit from, his friend will also get benefit out of it, where he would get half. It's just as in these days and times, for example, you own a car, and you basically lend it to your friend, that he drive it around, and whatever wages that he makes from him driving the car around, whatever to pick up people or utilize it for, you also likewise, the person who owned it would get what? Wages, or half. It's the same thing, in which basically the way Wed.Fri was saying in the hadith. He said that one of us will have a riding beast, give it to his what? Give it to his companion or give it to his friend or what have you. That he will utilize it, he will use it and attain certain wages or gains or profit or whatever. And he will give, what based upon what they agreed, half to the one who actually owned it. Is it clear what I'm saying or not? Is it clear? Basically, just to sum it up. So the way Wed.Fri upon that, he said, this is what we used to do during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So it's also extracted from this hadith, which is in Sunnah Abi Dawood, because the narration is in Sunnah Abi Dawood. This shows that also likewise it's permissible to engage in these type of what? Business transactions. Based upon the other part of the narration that's not mentioned in your book. So I just gave everybody the full narration. So the way Wed.Fri started saying, this is what we used to do during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So one will own something of this type of transportation, give it to his companion or his sahib, and as a result of it, his sahib or his partner would take it, utilize it, attain some type of profit, and likewise he would give some of the wages to the one who actually owned it. So it shows that which is the correct opinion in which Ahl Ilm mentioned is that this type of business transaction between two people is what is permissible. Which you'll find in some Ahl Ilm prohibited, but what's the strongest opinion inshaAllah is that it is permissible. So after the way Wed.Fri had mentioned this, there's another part of the hadith in which, I don't have time to explain right now. But at any rate, this part of the hadith, that the Prophet, or that he said during the time of the Prophet, this is what we used to do. And no one would what? No one would say that this is a type of unlawful transaction, or this is an affair that is what? Prohibited, or likewise that one should not indulge or engage in these type of practices. No. So he said in order to enlighten and show that his partner that this type of business or trade was what? Permissible. Then after that, the Wed.Fri mentioned the last part of the hadith, which is mentioned in your books. He mentioned this. Oh, you called it? No. It came in about 8 minutes ago now. So then at the end of the hadith, Wed.Fri mentioned the rest of what is written in your books. Then after he said this, then he said this narration, which is what? That you see, that which is currently in everyone's book right now, where it says maybe perhaps you will receive longevity. Tell the people whoever ties a knot in their beard or ties that bow around their rider beast, or he purifies himself in the bathroom, then verily Muhammad is free from him. Allah Akbar, Allah. Allah Akbar, Allah. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. Somebody said that is late. طيب, we mentioned and said, just to wrap up everything regards to this narration, we said that Ruwayfi' and his friend, his companion that was accompanying him, somebody's phone is going on? Somebody's at the end of real late. No. So he said in regards to what happened with Ruwayfi' and also what happened with his companion Shu'aib ibn Baytan. You notice that he said in the narration that what? He said that one of us will what? He will allow his friend, it would take, notice it says in the narration that it says it, what you did, it's not in your books. He said that one would take the right of use of his brother on the condition that he would give him half. So it's clear to know what was intended, which is what everyone? That the wages that he attained due to him, giving him that right and beast, then likewise the owner of it will what? Will benefit, right? Based upon whatever they agreed upon. There's one part of the narration, I'll just touch on it briefly. I don't want to get into the details of it. But Ruwayfi' also gave another benefit. He says that even to the point, he says that one of us, he says some of us will get لَيَطِيرُ لَهُ النَّصْلُ. He said that one of us will also likewise, as far as distribution of different war booties or benefits that would be distributed, some of us would give different types of what? Different things. So whose phone is that? These phones are they are fitna from Allah. These are things that are affliction from Allah. These are things that could be good or they could be very, very irritating. These phones. At any rate, it says in the narration in regards to what Ruwayfi' that he mentioned and said, he said that one of us, that even to the point with the distribution of the war booty, there's some of us would receive different things. Or some of us, one person would get something and then another person would get something else, or what have you. But at any rate, just to sum up everything, make everything straight to the point, what is distributed or what can be distributed? For verily, if one can receive it and benefit from it, then he takes it. But there's certain things during distribution that cannot be what? Be taken or it cannot be accepted. If that was the case, and I'll give examples of this later on if we got the time. That meaning, for example, in the distribution of it, there might be something that has something in it of a harm to the person. He says, then it's sold and then the value of it is distributed. Which we'll talk about that later, inshallah. But that's the type of business transaction or something in regards to the distribution of certain affairs in which people participate when it's shared, which we'll discuss later. But at any rate, just to sum it up, the point of reference in the hadith, we just wanted to say a little bit about the story of when this actually took place. To show how in the history of certain ahadith, alhamdulillah, in order to show that these narrations, everything is what? Been recorded. Everything has been what? It's accurate and precise. To the point where even those stories that took place during certain narrations that was narrated upon the Prophet ﷺ. So we know that this narration took place during the time of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan radiyallahu anhu, when he was the Emir and he appointed, like we said, Maslama ibn Makhlad over Egypt at the time. And then from his delegates, who was this great Sahabi Ruwayfi' ibn Thabit. And like we said, his friend, they were walking in the road, going from each place in which one was appointed over, and they were going back and forth. In the great distance that they were going or they were traversing or traveling in, and they started talking about this story. So we know that this narration of the occasion of when it took place was during this time. So not to the point that we not only just know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, but also we know the history of when it happened and when it actually took place, and that everything has been recorded and everything is what? Is precise and accurate. So this narration, just to show everyone, or make it straight to the point because I don't want to confuse everyone. The point of reference in the hadith is when the Prophet ﷺ said, what everyone? Those who tie the bow around the riding beast. So this is a affair of monotheism in which one needs to know that purifies his Tawheed of Allah, his worship of Allah. That he's not utilizing these affairs in order to protect himself, as these are from the affairs that are highly prohibited. Rather, it's considered from polytheism, if one is not careful. It doesn't matter whether it's a bow he ties around his animal, or a bow he ties around himself, or any type of affair in which we explained from the previous lessons that we mentioned. So the next narration, so we can end it off, inshallah, that we can pray. With the authority of Sa'id ibn Jubair. What does it say in the narration? Can you read it for me, Dawood? Abdul-Shaheed, I'm sorry. Matter of fact, let Dawood read it. I need him to be awake. Read it, Dawood. The narration of Sa'id ibn Jubair. It's right after the one we just explained. جيد. On the authority of Sa'id ibn Jubair, rahimahullah, وَرَضِيَ عَنْهُ, that whoever cuts a charm from a person, verily as if he freed or liberated a slave. Man qata'a tamima. What is Sa'id ibn Jubayr talking about? Whoever cuts off a charm. Any type of attachment that has in it a polytheistic type of meaning, or carries a polytheistic meaning in it. Like I told the brothers before and his sisters, jewelry, the origin of it, like we said, is permissible. No, as far as it regards, as long as for men it's not gold, or it's not those regards in which is impermissible. But for one to wear it, it's just mere what? Decoration, that's it. Now as far as if the meaning behind it, or the intent behind it is something what is of something superstitious, or something that has a polytheistic meaning in it, this is where the prohibition now applies. Where, like we said, in these days and times, people wear necklaces around their necks for the purpose of allowing my husband or our marriage to be successful or fruitful. I wear this necklace because my grandmother, my great-grandmother wore it, and my great-great-great-grandmother wore it, and it was passed on from generation to generation until everyone who wore it from out of our family always had a long, great marriage. If this is the meaning or the intent behind you wearing this necklace, this is what we're speaking about now. Verily, these affairs have no effect on your life. Rather, these are affairs of Jahiliyyah in which the Prophet ﷺ came in order to what? To remove and to tie one's heart with Allah, not to these type of matters. So, a person will wear, like we talked about, even these days and times, you'll find that a lot of our youth, they engage inside of, for example, cardiovascular activities. From them, for example, they play basketball or football, and they say that I wear this attachment or this particular band around my head, or a band around my arm, or a sweatband around my wrist or around my leg, because every time I wear it, then like we said, I perform very well inside of this game. Or every time I wear these sneakers, I wear this attachment, or I wear this ring, or I wear this type of chain or necklace, I always perform exceptionally well. Whether it be racking up or gathering a lot of points, or what have you. For all these type of matters, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, are what? Unlawful. And what they contain in it of affairs that are pertaining to shirk, to polytheism. As the Prophet ﷺ taught us to put your heart, or tie your heart in with Allah and put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then after that, to now go out and set out to perform well of what Allah ta'ala has what? Given you of certain skills. Whether it be any field of life, of whether or not it's an affair of what? In your business, or in a store you might open, or certain type of business transactions that you indulge in, of what is permissible. One always ties his heart in with Allah ta'ala, and he does not rely on these type of affairs in which the Prophet ﷺ ultimately clarified the reality of them, is that they have no effect over your life. Well, subhanAllah al-Azim, the birds are flying west today, so that means that my job today would not be or my business would not be lucrative today, or would not be prosperous today, or I'll not attain a lot of profits and earnings today, due to the fact that the birds have flew west, or due to the fact that when I walked outside, I walked under a ladder. So now, let me go back to my house because maybe something very evil is going to happen to me in this particular day of mine. For all these affairs, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, the Prophet ﷺ came in order to what? Remove and erase. For very, very dangerous, and it has a tremendous impact upon your monotheism of Allah ta'ala. Which as a result of it, if one is not careful, it could even nullify your Islam. If one is not careful, it will invalidate and it will what? Nullify your Islam. And it will what? If you die in that state, you will die in the most evilest of all states that one human being could die in, which is a state of polytheism. So we said, Ya ma'ashal ikhwa, just to the end this chapter, also we can start in a new one for next lesson. Shirk. S-H-I-R-K. No problem. You cool. No problem at all. Next narration that we will end the chapter off where it says on the authority of Sa'id ibn Jubair, that he said, whoever sets or tears off a talisman or a chain or a charm, that he removes or cuts it, is as if you had what? Removed him, or as if you liberated a slave or freed a slave. Type, what does he mean? Remove the charm or remove any type, not only just a what? Not only just a chain or an attachment that is just a mere charm or a talisman. Any type of meaning that has in it a meaning of polytheism. As your father Ibn Uthaymeen, that he mentions this regard, he says, وَجْهُ الْمُشَابَهَ بَيْنَ قَطْعِ التَّمِيمَةِ وَإِعْتِقِ الرَّقَبَةِ أنه إذا قطع التميمة من إنسان فكأنه أعتقه من الشرك ففكه من النار ولكن يقطعها بالتي هي أحسن لأن العنف يؤدي إلى المشاحنة والشقاق إلا إذا كان ذا شأن كالأمير والقاضي ونحوه ممن له سلطة فله يقطعها مباشرة. To the end of it. He says that you'll find a Sa'id ibn Jubair that he said cutting a charm off from the neck of the riding beast from a person is as if he has freed him from polytheism. So when you remove these type of matters from a person, as if you freed him from polytheism and you freed him from the hellfire. He says, however, one should remove it or cut it off with that which is best. Because violence or doing something in a very offensive manner, where he's very violent or he's very, very harsh, he says it will lead to what? Al-mushahana wa shiqaq. It will lead to now what? Indulging in one, arguing, bickering with a person, and it can even cause division. Except if a person is a person that's in charge or power, such as the ruler, or some that, or the judge, and for the person that actually has authority. For verily, in this instance, he can cut it off directly if he wants. But other than that, like we said, one should cut and remove these affairs by that which is what? Which is best. By using wisdom and using gentleness in a lot of different what? In a lot of different aspects where gentleness is needed. Especially in these days in which we're living in, like we said, a lot of people are ignorant of these affairs. Then as a result of it, if you was to cut it by being violent or being hasty and also being harsh, then you will what? Make the affair worse than what it is. So one should utilize, like we said, what everyone? Gentleness and kindness. And she should not use what? Harshness or violence in order to change the munkar, to change the what? The evil, to remove it. Rather, one use gentleness, kindness in these certain matters. However, if it was a person that you know, who's learned Tawheed and a person of the ilm, that is known for years, and did you know that they're a type of personality that they're able to tolerate, you being a little harsh with them, then that's something different. But majority of the people, like we said, that are new and that are very in the beginning stages of learning these matters, then in order to teach them and remove these type of evils from them, then use kindness and gentleness in regarding changing the evil and removing it. And to use and be savvy and to be strategic. There's a lot of us, we lose these type of matters. We lose this type of method, which is being savvy and strategic, in order for the evil to be what? Removed. By not using harshness or violence, but however using wisdom and being tactful. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? For verily we know the poetry as Al-Hafidh Ibn Al-Qayyim, that he mentioned his poetry, that he said, وَمَنْ أَنْكَرَ مَنْ أَزَالَ أَمْكَرًا بِشَيْءٍ أَنْكَرَا كَغَسْلِ الْبَوْلِ بِالْحَيْضِ أَنْكَرًا. They said in his poetry, he says, مَنْ أَنْكَرَ مُنْكَرًا بِشَيْءٍ أَنْكَرَا كَغَسْلِ الْبَوْلِ بِالْحَيْضِ أَنْكَرًا. He says, whoever forbids the evil or removes the evil by something more evil is as if he has washed urine with a mince, which is more what? Which is more pathetic and more disgusting, repulsive. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So مَنْ أَنْكَرَ مُنْكَرًا بِشَيْءٍ أَنْكَرَا كَغَسْلِ الْبَوْلِ بِالْحَيْضِ أَنْكَرًا. So whoever removes or whoever forbids the evil by something even more evil, as if he has removed urine with a mince, which is more what? Repulsive and more what? Worse. You understand, everyone? But however, we know that the Prophet ﷺ, or this particular narration here, do we say that it has hukm al-rafi'? Do we say that it has, or takes the hukm of a hadith? We said last lesson, what, everyone? This narration takes the hukm of a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Lahu hukm al-rafi'. Why? Because these affairs, like we said, are from the affairs of the unseen. You'll never find that the Sahaba, or none of the Tabi'een, none of them will speak about affairs of the unseen by their own opinion. It's not permissible. There, these affairs, as they say, مِمَّا لَا مَجَالَ لِلرَّأْيِ فِيهِ وَلَا يَجُوزُ الرَّأْيِ فِيهِ. These affairs are not from the affairs in which one can give his opinion in. Rather, they are affairs of what? Of the unseen, in which we know it's not permissible to discuss or to bring a ruling of the affairs of the unseen except there's a text, either that the Sahaba understood from the Prophet ﷺ, or the Tabi'een likewise took it from the Sahaba. So this matter is an affair of the unseen, right, everyone? To say that the one who frees himself or removes a charm that carries in it this polytheistic meaning is as if he liberated a slave. We said that this is a ruling of the unseen, in which we know that the great Tabi'i Sa'id ibn Jubayr would never speak about from his own opinion. So this understanding he took from the Sahaba. So which comes as a result of it, it has al-hukm, as they say, lahu hukm al-rafi'. It takes the ruling and the hukm of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? And as we know, as Ibn al-Qayyim says in his Nuniyah, in his poetry, talking about how being a slave of these type of polytheistic matters and one being connected with it as if he's being what? A slave of a shaitan. Because we know that the abd breaks down to two types of what? Categories. You have the awliya ar-Rahman or the awliya ar-Shaitan. Or you're either going to be an abd in this dunya, you're either going to be a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or slave of your nafs or the slave of the shaitan. There's no what? Fourth to it. You either want to have this or that. And you know that the majority of the people that reject the revelation, they become slaves of their own whims and their own desires. And they become a slave and lust of their own what? Evil ideologies. And what you'll find as a result of it, they go astray and they destroy themselves. Mentally, physically, and what? And as far as in their soul. all of it together. As Ibn al-Qayyim said in his poetry, he says, in his Nuniyah, he says, وَهَرَبُوا مِنَ الرِّقِّ الَّذِي خُلِقُوا لَهُ وَبُولُوا بِرِقِّ النَّفْسِ وَالشَّيْطَانِ. That Ibn al-Qayyim says in his poetry, he says, they fleed away from the slavery they were created for. هَرَبُوا مِنَ الرِّقِّ الَّذِي خُلِقُوا لَهُ وَبُولُوا بِرِقِّ النَّفْسِ وَالشَّيْطَانِ. He says that they fleed away from the slavery they were created for. And as a result of it, they became tested with the slavery of shaitan and their own nafs. So from one removes a charm from the neck of the person, or any type of attachment that has a polytheistic meaning in it, then as if you have liberated a slave and freed him from the hellfire. But like we said, to do it in a manner that which is what everyone, which has in it wisdom, and has in it, which will come as a result of it, what is requested, the removal of that particular evil. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So that was the last part of the chapter. Read the Masail for me so we can pray. I'm sorry. Tafadhal, Abdul-Shaheed. Who's Ibrahim, everyone? Ibrahim ibn Yazid al-Nakha'i al-Kufi. Ibrahim ibn Yazid al-Nakha'i al-Kufi. من أصحاب ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه. He was from those who took knowledge from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, from the people of Kufa. His name was Ibrahim ibn Yazid al-Nakha'i al-Kufi. Ibrahim ibn Yazid ibn Nakha'i al-Kufi. He is from the Kibar Ashab Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu. So he is from the what? From those who took knowledge from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu. Mas'ud ibn Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud ibn Ghafil al-Hudhali. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud ibn Ghafil al-Hudhali. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, Ibrahim ibn Yazid al-Nakha'i al-Kufi. As we know, in the Isnad, he is Imam, Thiqa, Thabt. He's considered a person who is what? Trustworthy in the chain of narrations. See Ibrahim al-Nakha'i? No, he is what? Thiqa. Why? He was from the companions of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. What did he say, Ya Ma'ash al-Ikhwa? He says, Ibrahim ibn Yazid al-Nakha'i al-Kufi. He mentions, it says, that all of them, they used to what? Detest charms and what? And attachments. Or excuse me, those charms that had in it, either it had in the Quran or it didn't have in the Quran. They hated in all of it. What does the meaning of hatred here mean? We mean it that it was haram. Not the meaning it was the makruh. يعني حيث يحمل الحكم على الكراهة التنزيهية لا يحمل الحكم على الكراهة التحريمية. So what is applied here is the hukum of what? That is unlawful. Not because it was detested. You understand, everyone? You have to understand the terminology that was used in the past. And from them here in this particular context, we're talking about affairs of polytheism. You think it was just hated and detested? No, the affair was what? It was unlawful. You understand, everyone? Is it clear what I'm saying? So it's not saying it was detested. No. These are affairs of shirk. So the meaning of what is meaning here, what it takes here, which is what? That's unlawful. Is it clear what I'm saying? So Ibrahim ibn Yazid al-Nakha'i al-Kufi was from the companions of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. When we say companions, meaning from those who took knowledge of him. Those who took knowledge. And he was from the Kibar Fuqaha al-Kufa. He was from the major scholars of Kufa. The major scholars of Kufa. Which Kufa currently is where, everyone? Kufa now is currently where, everyone? In Iraq. It's in Iraq. It's in Iraq. Kufa is in Iraq currently today. What does it say in the next narration? So the first, which is what? Is all for number one. Is all incantations Allah for everyone? No. Alhamdulillah. All of some are what? Some in what? Some are legislated, some are what? Not legislated. Right, everyone? We already talked about and covered what is legislated, what is not. The second, what does it say in your books? So we can hurry up. See the tiwala. We talked about what tiwala is, right, everyone? We said it's a concoction that's made in order to make one fall in love with another. And we said it's a type of what? Sihr. It's a type of magic. It's a type of magic. And some of them even use a ring. They use in which these days and times what you know is a wedding ring. You understand, everyone? That what they say, if they wear the wedding ring, then what? then this will give longevity in the marriage and it will make it prosperous and fruitful. We said that this is what? All of it is what? Impermissible. Jayyid. The third one. All these affairs are from polytheism without any exception. This you'll find that Ahl-Ilm clarified and said that what is intended by it is what has in it polytheism. Not the fact that all incantations are what? Unlawful. That's not what is it's not intended here. Some of the incantations are what? Permissible. But he's talking about that which contains in it the polytheistic meanings of which we clarify. It's clear, everyone? Even to the point where even Ibn Uthaymeen said the exact same thing. He says, وَظَاهِرُ كَلَامِهِ حَتَّى الرُّقَى وَهَذَا فِيهِ نَظَرٌ لِأَنَّ الرُّقَى ثَبَتَ عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه كان يرقي ويرقى ولكنه لا يسترقي لا يطلب الرقية فإطلاقها بالنسبة للرقى فيه نظر. He said, even this particular wording that the great Imam that he used, Muhammad Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah, he says that has in it something that we have to discuss, something that is incorrect a bit. He said, because not all incantations is what? Unlawful. You understand, everyone? In which the Prophet ﷺ, he himself used incantations, and likewise we know that the Prophet ﷺ, what everyone? Had ruqya performed on him. The Prophet ﷺ himself had ruqya or incantation performed on him. ﷺ. Right, everyone? Agreed. The fourth one. We already talked about that, right, everyone? We clarified that. We had to stop in it. The fifth one. The fifth one. We already discussed that. Alhamdulillah. Tafadal. 6. We clarify. Alhamdulillah, that's clear, right, everyone? طيب. Second. G, that's clear. The eighth. Virtuous reward for the one who destroys people's charms. G. طيب, the ninth. That the statement of Ibrahim does not contradict the previous mentions, differences of opinion, because he was talking about the opinions of he was calling about Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. We will discuss inshallah from the Kibar Fuqaha al-Kufa. From them was, we just mentioned some of them was who? Ibrahim ibn Yazid al-Nakha'i al-Kufi, right, everyone? He was from the Kibar Fuqaha al-Kufa, right, everyone? He was from the major scholars of Kufa during his time, rahimahullah wa radiya anhu. Also likewise, from them, we'll talk about the companions of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. From them, for example, was Alqama ibn Qais. From them was Masruq ibn Ajda'. From them was Rabi' ibn Khuthaym. And all the other different companions of Abdullah ibn Ghafil al-Hudhali ibn Ummi Abu Abdurrahman, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu Allah. We have to, inshallah, we'll try to discuss and study because this is very important as far as even in hadith, to know those who are the scholars that took knowledge from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, who are very famous tabi'een in the asanid, in the chains of narration. From, like we said before, from them is Ibrahim ibn Yazid al-Nakha'i. From them is Al-Aswad ibn Yazid ibn Qais al-Nakha'i. And also likewise, Alqama ibn Qais al-Ju'fi. And we'll talk and discuss all of them, inshallah. Don't worry, everyone. And Suwayd ibn Ghafla ibn Usijah al-Ju'fi al-Kufi. All of them we'll talk about, inshallah, in this due time. Don't worry, everyone. All of it's going to come. But to familiarize ourselves with those who are, for example, the people who were known and famous to take knowledge from different Sahaba, this is something that's important, which we'll talk about, discuss at the time when we have it. Any questions about the lesson, anyone? Ibrahim ibn Yazid al-Nakha'i al-Kufi. Al-Kufi. And don't text me talking about anyone who says Kufi is related to a Kufi that reads way over our heads. I don't know where we get that from here. I have no idea. Kufi. Where you're a Kufi, I don't know where that comes from. Because something I think that was made up here in America is a name, Kufi. But the correct way of what is pronounced for this is a taqiyya. Taqiyya or qalansawa. What we know is a taqiyya. That's what's the correct way for this, a taqiyya. Or taqiyya. Say it again. This also applies to someone who destroys an idol. Allahu A'lam, you'll be rewarded for it if it's done properly. Just going to someone, it's like you go to a church and just knock down a cross. La. That we know that it's not for one to do that. You understand? For that which in regards to those matters, we can't say that it's the same as this reward because you didn't do it for a person. It says the person who takes it off a person, that he is free to, is as if he is free to what? Liberated a slave. In regards to knocking out our idols, it's something different. Of course, that's commanded the good, forbidden the evil. Generally, we know that a person that commands the good, forbidden the evil will be what? Rewarded. But it has to be done in a what? Proper manner. It has to be done in the proper manner. Not doing it and hastening towards being vigilantes or going out and doing certain affairs that at the end it will be more detrimental, more reprehensible than good. Is it clear, everyone, what I'm saying? Like, any other questions about the lesson? What's your name? What's your name? Mm-hmm. What's your name? Darian. What's your name? What you say? I think that's obvious. Tyrone, G. What's your name? Kareem. G. طيب إن شاء الله. Any other questions about the lesson? هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. وكما جاء في الرواية الصحيحة كذلك اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تحول به بيننا وبين معاصيك ومن طاعتك ما تبلغنا به جنتك ومن اليقين ما تهون به علينا مصائب الدنيا. اللهم متعنا بأسماعنا وصارنا وقواتنا ما أبقيتنا واجعله الوارث منا واجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا وانصرنا على من عدانا ولا تجعل مصيبتنا في ديننا ولا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا ولا مبلغ علمنا ولا إلى النار مصيرنا ولا تسلط علينا بذنوبنا من لا يخافنا ولا يرحمنا. طيب إن شاء الله تفضل.